Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Pollinator Parade, presented to you by myself, Izzy, and today we are going to learn how to make an insect hotel whilst thinking about the importance of the pollinators on our planet. But just to recap, what is a pollinator?
Pollen does a lot more than just make you sneeze. It's also a crucial reproductive strategy that plants have been relying on for over 365 million years, even long before the dinosaurs walked the earth. Several species have evolved alongside plants to be great pollinators. A pollinator will carry the reproductive pollen from one plant to another to enable the next generation of seeds or plants to grow. Now, insect hotels come in all different shapes and sizes. As you can see, this is a rather large one that I've found in my local nature reserve in Bristol. And particularly mason bees, solitary bees and potter's wasps will seek out small holes, as you can see, are all over this bee house, this Buggingham palace. Today we're going to look at making slightly smaller bee houses, but first, what can we find outside?
There's no right or wrong way to make a bee house. Today we're going to go out into nature and we're going to see what we can find for our bees to make their nests in. Remember, when you're collecting things from nature, always pick things that have already fallen from the tree or are on the ground, because we don't want to be cutting down any branches or trees. We need them as much as the bees do too. So let's go and see what we can find.
Take care when you're foraging outside for your goodies, as not 100% of plants are fit for human consumption. Wash your hands when you get home, and make sure your wood is free of damp and is nice and dry, ready for your insects to make their nest.
So I've got a good assortment of different sized sticks and logs. Now we're going to take these home and prep them up and get them ready.
So I have an assortment of different things here that I've found at the garden centre and outdoors, with some willow here. I've got some bamboo that's been cut to short lengths, and these bigger pieces of bamboo can create some lovely shapes in your bee house too. And an assortment of different sticks and logs. One thing to remember when you're looking for your sticks is if there's small holes in it like this is no good. There's already things living in it and it may make the rest of your bee house go rotten. And here's another established bee house which I found at a different nature reserve, and as you can see there's lots and lots of holes in this one. It's made up of mainly bamboo, and this provides a perfect habitat for our bees to nest in.
So, if you haven't got the means to go to a garden centre to get some bamboo, you can go out into nature and look for a plant that grows like this one. So this is a cow parsley, and when it dries out, it looks like this one, and as you can see, it has holes all the way down, and that's a perfect habitat for your bees to nest in, so you can collect some of these.
Here's another great example of something you can go out into nature and find. Some lovely dry moss I found in my local woodland, so that will make a lovely snuggly bee bed. But you could also find some dried grass or some dried leaves as well.
Now, out of the 20,000 different species of bee that we have worldwide, in the last 50 years, numbers have dramatically decreased. Since the 1990s, it's around 25% of insect populations that have fallen. And sadly, this isn't going to change unless we start to address how important our pollinating pals really are.
We're going to start off our bee house journey by looking at how to make the simplified bee house, the log house. You can find a suitable log out in nature. In the next few phases of the video, we're going to move on to making the bee houses themselves. I'll be using a drill and a saw, And just a reminder to our young viewers, if you're thinking about using tools of any kind, please seek out adult supervision to help you through the next few phases. Once you've selected your log, if you've got a drill at home, you'll need around an 8mm drill bit to make your holes, and this will be big enough for the bees to nest inside throughout the winter. So let's get on and make some holes. Tap all the sawdust out. And there we have a good replica of a bee house that will be found in a natural habitat. If you don't have a drill at home, don't worry, there's lots of other ways that you can make a bee house too. So this one that I've made out of pallet wood is a neat little house. It's got a roof to stop the water getting in throughout the winter, but you can also use a flower pot. So this, being plastic on the outside, will help protect the inside throughout the winter as well. And in my shed I also found something that would be good. So I think this was some sort of bottle case. And the most important thing to remember when you're sourcing your wood is that you don't want anything treated. So anything like chipboard or MDF won't be any good because it's full of pesticides, fungicides, herbicides and glues, and these are the sorts of things that will deter the pollinators from nesting in their habitat. So I'm going to do the same with this one as I have with this one, as you could also do with your flower pot. So now we just need to fill the inside of our box. I'm lucky enough to be able to have a chop saw to go through all of my wood, but if you don't have the power tools at home, you can just use a regular saw. It just takes a little bit more time. So, as I mentioned before, you've got to make sure that there's a rim to help protect the inside. So just cut your lengths around 1 inch inside to the rim. And once parents or guardians have stepped in to help you do the chopping of all of your wood, we can all help together with the fun part of the assembling of the bee house. And while I chop through this wood, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of my favourite pollinators. So this is a common carder bee as part of the brown bumblebee varieties. We have 25 different species of bumblebee in this country. And you've also got the black, white and yellow bumblebees. Now this is a white-tailed bumblebee, and you can find around up to 400 of these bees in one nest, including many workers and a queen. And this is a tiny moth that I've recently discovered in my back garden. It's a mint moth, and they're only up to around 12mm in length, but they still do a great job with pollination. Now I've started to assemble my flower pot, and you shouldn't need any glues. You should be able to wedge the different widths of the sticks into place. I've got some little lengths of bamboo that I've already cut here as well.
got some pliers to cut through my willow, but you can use some very sharp scissors or some garden secateurs would do as well. You can see how we're just filling all the gaps. So you don't want anything to be loose or falling out. And you want to just keep going with that until you have something that looks a bit like this. And now we can move on to fill our bee box. So this is going to be a different size, so we can measure and cut again. Just inside the room here. And when you're collecting your bamboo, just try and ensure that you get lots of different sizes. There's lots of different sized holes for the bees to be able to make their nest in.
While I'm chopping up this bamboo, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of my favourite insects. This is the large garden bumblebee. This is the UK's biggest species of bumble, and you can see it's burrowing its face right into the flower, collecting the pollen very easily, where some of the other bees will have to completely bury themselves in this flower. And these are all insects that I've found in and around the city of Bristol, where I live. This is a speckled wood, often found in woods, hedgerows and meadows. This is what a honey beehive looks like. So the bees live in large groups called colonies, and honeybees are amazing. They can see polarised light, they communicate through dancing, they can tell the time, and they even have their own healthcare system.
And you can see you can start to assemble all the pieces.
And then when you've finished, you will have something that looks a bit like these. If we're thinking about ways of how we can help our bees, I've got a great little garden hack here for you in the next clip to show you how we can easily plant some seeds without having to buy any flower pots. So I've just got a loo roll, and you cut 4 slits around the bottom of the loo roll and fold them in together as if you would a cardboard box, layering one piece after the other at a time. And you can use a bit of tape on the bottom if you need to, but mine is stood quite upright. And then you just need some average compost. Nearly fill the toilet roll. I've decided to plant some of my favourite herb, some thyme, into these ones. And you only need a couple of seeds in each. You don't want the seeds to be overcrowding each other when they grow. So carefully sprinkle them in. And then finally just a little bit of compost on the top so we can ensure that the seeds don't dry out in the sun. And there we are, easy peasy. So what did we learn from today, other than how to build an insect hotel? It's extremely important for us to realise just how crucial these little insects are to help protect our biodiversity and to our lives as a result. And what more can we do? We need to work together to help preserve and protect our wildlife. And we can all make small changes from home, and that includes you guys too. Even using a natural pesticide in the garden as opposed to a chemical one can make such a massive difference. Or if you can, dedicate an area to planting wild flowers and you'll just see the garden flourish. But for now, that's all we've got time for today. I thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I know that I have. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Take care now. Look after the bees and yourselves.